Hello, students. This video will show you a walkthrough of how to create a metaverse experience in augmented reality. So I'm going to create one for you. First, I want to show you around. We have the My Experiences area over here. And if I click that, you can see that I've done this a few times and I have lots of experiences there, a lot that my students have created. They're all very good. I have walls, and a wall is something you can think of as a place to post notes and selfies. And I can show you one here. So let me show you one I did at a national conference. So people posted messages. I posted a few things. And then there's also polls. So a poll is something that you can create within your metaverse experience and kind of get some feedback from your students, and they can see some feedback as well. And then what we're going to do is create an experience. When you create an experience, what you'll have to do is give it a title. Let me say test example for EDU 120. So that's where you give your experience a title. There's also a way to test your experience and also publish your experience. So right now we're not going to do any of those. There's also a back button. I can zoom out and I can zoom in. As you get more and more into your experience, you'll have a lot more information in your screen area and you might need to zoom out. But in this case right now, what I want to show you is this is the beginning of the experience. It's always there. You don't really want to do anything with that. It really just starts off the whole experience. The connector is really important because if this is deleted, it won't start. So everything has to have a connector between it. And again, we'll discuss all of that here as we go through the walkthrough. These boxes are called scenes. And this one, as you can see, really, really tiny right here is scene 1. So I can zoom in a little bit here for you. So scene 1. And the other little tiny box, if I go up here, is a trash box, which will take and delete this whole entire scene. So you want to be very careful about doing that. Zoom out a little bit. This area is a text area where I can type dialogue or instructions, and there's a save button. There's also an area where I can click to input a character if I would like a character. And there's lots of different types of characters. There's ways to search for characters. And we'll go through that in the walkthrough as well. There's animated characters that are 3D. There's also Giphy Cat stickers. So if you like those, you can look at those. You can add characters. So some of these were some that others have added and shared. So those are the characters. There's also a place to add buttons. So I can say continue or make a selection, or maybe it's a multiple choice question. So that's a button that I can add. And again, this will tell me if something's not connected. So this is a little warning sign. We'll go through buttons in a minute. There's also a place to add sounds, and there's just a bunch of sounds that can go through Metaverse, and you can see country, 80s. So there's lots of different categories of sound that you can get. So there's sounds. And then there's also a frame. A frame is something that you would use perhaps to do selfies, and we'll talk about those as well. So I can add characters and things to make really fun selfies. So this is a scene. The other items that I wanted to go over here is this little area here. This is kind of your control center. Right now it's in augmented reality mode, and that's where I want you to keep it. Augmented reality mode is when you publish it and you test it, the characters that you pull in will actually be available floating in air, or you can set them on a desk, as I will show you in other tutorials. This area here is for the button styles. So I can change the style of the buttons. You see over here. I can also change the color of the buttons. I can make my own color of the buttons. I can add a timer if I want to have only so many minutes that they can make a selection or it moves on. And I can also say where the transition goes to once they click a button. So that's in general scenes. And I'm going to add a scene here just to show you our options. So these are the different types of scenes. It defaults to this character scene, but you also can have a text input scene, a request item scene, give an item scene. So again, if you want to give them rewards, virtual rewards, or you want to take away points, you can get as complex or not complex on this as you want. Again, this is kind of one of those universal design for learning. If you want to go higher than the minimum requirements, there is so much in here that you can use and play with and develop. You can also go to a web scene view or website. You can do a camera scene. So you can add this to have students take selfies, which is fun, or take pictures of things. If you want them to take pictures of a plant, a bug, you can incorporate that in there. You can add YouTube videos, photo portals, video portals, wall scenes, the ones I showed you at the beginning, a poll, a 360 video scene, a 360 photo scene. So those are all the different types of scenes. Now, sometimes there are going to be walls. So if you have them do a selfie or a poll or something, you won't be able to see it unless you create what we call a wall. And again, it's very easy to do. We'll make a wall in the walkthrough, but so that's what a wall is. It's for you to see the answers that students have created, whether it's a selfie or maybe a poll or maybe text that you want them to do. And then there's different types of text. These are called blocks. So you may have a scene in which they have to add a number. It has to be a number if you're doing something with math, for example, or maybe you're allowing them to write something and you're just looking for a certain piece of the text has to be in there in order to be good. So there's lots of different ways. It has to be uppercase or lowercase, or it can change it for you. So these are kind of coding blocks that are in there. And I promise you, it won't be as overwhelming as it appears right now. We won't use a lot of these in just the project that we're going to do for this class, but it's good to know. Also, you can do a poll. So if you want to say, how hard was this project? I could do a poll. I can do probability if you want to have them roll the dice or things of that nature, a coin flip. You can have leaderboards. You can have different properties. And again, I'm not going to go through all of them. You can read up on them. Experience properties, user properties. So this is if you really want to build a pretty extensive game. You can also use Google Vision. So you can have them see if someone is happy using the camera. Is this an object? Is it text? So I can remove item, add item, time controls, and on and on and on. Again, the ones that we're going to use are pretty easy to use. And in that case, you'll be able to get through your experience without having to learn a whole bunch of these. But again, they're fun. They're fun to play with and to learn. Okay, so now you've got the big picture. Let's go ahead and we're going to select a character for our scene. This is our opening scene. So it's the first thing that our students are going to see. So I like to get a character first, because sometimes I may want to have my dialogue be how the character would talk. So if the character is Batman, I may use his style of talking. So anyways, I have a character I usually like, and it's a bunny. There he is, Baby Bunny. Love Baby Bunny. So you can either click on it or you can click the use. And you can see it brings Baby Bunny right in, eating their noodles. So now I need to have Baby Bunny talk. Now this is just reading. It won't actually talk unless you record video and upload a sound. But in this case, we're going to have Baby Bunny say, let's learn how to build things. Which do you want to learn first? So then I'm going to add some buttons. So now I'm asking a choice. So remember, in universal design, we're giving choices. So we're building in universal design by giving these choices. And I'm going to have 3 choices. So I'm going to have 3 buttons. And on the first button, instead of this little move forward button, I'm going to have some text. And in the text, I'm going to say internet link. And on the second one, that's all I'm going to do on there for now. I'm going to say, watch a video. And on the third one, their choice is going to be text input. So these are the choices. Now, if you see these little warning symbols, that means you have a choice that's not linked to anything. So when you're all done, you should not have any of these. But for right now, it's okay to have them. We know they're not linked. We're also going to add some sound just because I think it's fun. Let me see if I can find the Mario theme. Oh, we got lots of them. I am going to click on the Mario theme. If I click in here, I can hear the sound first. Now that sounds pretty fun. So I'm going to use that. So I can see that I have my music in here. Perfect. So now we're going to add the scenes that match these buttons. So I'm going to add new. And in this case, I'm going to add a web view scene. What I need to do is put in the website URL. And just to show you how it works, I would have a button that is, if it's an internet link, it's related to whatever question I'm asking. So if it's a math question, if it's a history question, it's a link to something that's relevant. But for right now, I'm just going to show you that it works. So I'm just going to put in http owens.edu. And once you click enter, it should load you a preview. Oh, there's the Owens website. I have the Owens website. What I want it to do is, if they happen to click here first and review the website, I need to know what happens after they get done. So what I want them to do when they're done with reviewing the website that I asked them to do is to go back to this main menu and pick something else. So to do that, I need to connect this scene back to where I want it to go. So transition to what scene. So after I'm here, so I can tell this is the scene I'm in, make sure it's selected. I want to go back to, I can say scene 1, and it's going to connect it back to this scene. So perfect, it's going back to scene 1. But I don't have this button connected to where I'm going. I know how to get back, but I have to get there first. So I'm going to click on this button, the link button. So make sure I have that ready to go. And this one also says, what do I want to do if they click this button? Well, in this case, I want to go to, and this is scene 2. Once I get a whole bunch of scenes in here, it's hard to know what scene number it is. So I'm just going to pick it. And I could do that using this little button right here, this little finger point button. So I'm going to go to scene 2. And what I can see, if I rearrange these a little bit, is that this one is going back to scene 2 here. Okay, now let's watch a video. So what we're going to need is a video screen. And I'm just going to put him down here because I want to know that these three go together. So we've created a YouTube scene, and what I need to do is get a YouTube, it says ID or URL, and I'll show you, it's a little bit tricky on this one, so I'm going to show you what that means. So I've got a YouTube video already set up, and I'm going to click the share, and I'm going to copy this right here, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to paste right in here. Now that's the URL. The URL has the HTTPS, and I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. Now, if your YouTube comes up and you see a preview, perfect. If not, what you might have to do is get rid of the HTTP part. So if you see right here, and I'm going to go back. And I'm going to click in here, and I'm going to paste that URL again. If you noticed, this part right here, everything before the GMG is basically part of the URL. So anything after utu.be / is the ID. So it just depends on the video. Sometimes it only wants the ID. So if you'll notice, once I hit enter, it actually took out everything except that ID at the end. So I've got my YouTube video. Now guess what we have to do? We have to link it. Again, once they're done, we want to make sure that they go back to that main menu one more time. So I'm going to go ahead and first of all, we're going to link this video. And remember, we click on the button that we want to link. We go over here to transition to a scene. And again, I can pick scene 3 or I can point to scene 3. And you'll notice the ones that I've linked now are blue. So that means they are linked. It's good. But now obviously I have something here that says this isn't going anywhere. So I have to link this back so they can go back and do that last one that's on here. This is what I want to connect from, and over here I want to connect back to, and I want to go back to scene 1. You see it put in the little connector for me. So I've got 2 out of the 3 done. I'm just going to move these over. So now my third option is for them to input some text. So to input some text, I need to add another scene. So I'm going to go ahead and add another scene. And I want a text input scene right here. And it always puts it to the right, and it always includes the last character that you had. So you can change the character if you want. And to do that, I'm just going to click in. Let me go up a little bit here. I'm going to click in here, and I want to edit. And this time I am going to pick another character that I love so much. And it's Bacon. Oops. I think Bacon is absolutely hilarious. So I love this guy down here. I'm going to use Dancing Bacon. And I'm going to ask a question of my person doing this experience. So I'm going to say, because he's pretty cool, what's shaking bacon? What's your name? Type your name below. And it helps if I spell things right. So type your name below. In the response area here, I'm going to click the type of response. So I have some options on the keyboard. Right now it's a text keyboard, but I can have a number pad if I need them to type in their age or something like that, but I'm going to go to text. So we've got a response in here, but now we have to find a place to put their response. I talked about selfies and polls have a wall. Well, text responses have a block. And we're going to add a block, and we're going to add over here a text block. The text block is going to be save text. And that's the one we're going to use. And it just puts this little block here. Anytime you add a block, it gives you a video tutorial on how to use that block. And it says save a text input from a text input scene. So we have our text input scene. We're going to save it in here. And we just need to connect everything. First thing we need to do is give this saved information a name. What are we calling this information we're asking them for? Right now, I'm asking them to put in a name, but I could be asking them to put in a history question. I may call it history 1 or something like that. In this case, I'm just going to call it user underscore name. I'm not going to transition just yet. First, we're going to finish out some things, and then we're going to go ahead and connect all these things. So the next thing we're going to do is add another character scene. And the character scene is just the general one. Still got my bacon in it. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Here's my little input. So in this character scene, we are going to add some text, and it's going to use the information that that user put in. They're going to use their name. So it's going to say, it's nice to meet you. And so this is important. This is about the hardest piece here is $, shift and the parenthesis key, not the one on the 9 and the 0 on your keyboard, but the one next to the letter P. So it has the kind of the squiggly type of parenthesis. And then props, dot, and then the name of the key that we just named, the name of the item, username. And then end cap it. Okay, so it's nice to meet you. And then it'll put in their name. I also want to ask them, what should we do next? And I'm going to add 4 buttons. So I'm just going to click and click and click and click. 4 buttons. The first one is going to say, show me how to validate text. The second one is going to say open-ended response with text wall. The third one is going to say go back to main menu. I can edit over here if I need to. So go back to main menu. And the last one says end my experience. Okay, now it's time to connect everything. So the first thing we need to do is connect this text input, right? This last button, because we still have a red version here. We need to connect this to our text scene. So I'm going to click on the button that I want to go from. I'm going to transition to a scene, and I'm going to use the little pointer button, and I'm going to click to my little bacon scene. So we've connected. That looks good. Just going to move him over a little bit. Now I have to connect the text response collector here to the place we're going to save it in the save text box. So I'm going to make sure I'm in this scene. I'm going to make sure you click in the text response area in order to get the placeholder area here. So I'm going to transition to not a scene this time because I'm going to this block. So I'm going to transition to a block, and then I tell it which block. This one. So I got a nice connector here. Now I need to take what we've stored and transition it to, you guessed it, scene 5 here. I'm going to transition to here. Okay, so far we've got all these connectors. I'm going to go ahead and publish so we save our scene. I recommend that you publish often. Plus you can see what happens when you publish. So I already have a name for mine, but you can, and you can give it an description. So still test example for EDU 120 using baby bunny. And when I publish, what you're going to see is it gives you this cute little picture of your experience. It's usually the character that's in the first scene. And then it also gives you a QR code. So the QR code is what will be used if you want to put it on something. Students can use their phone to scan the QR code, and then it launches the experience. If you don't have a phone, there is a link that you can share. And that's this link right here that also will share the experience and the code. And then there's a studio link, which is the one that we will use, that you will put in Blackboard to show me your experience and so forth. So stay with me here. That is published. So now I can get out of here, and I'm just right back into my screen here. Okay, so now we have 4 blocks here that we need to connect and to make items for. So let's move on to validating text. So we're going to add another scene. It's going to be another text input scene. As you can see, we're just going to keep getting bigger and bigger. So I may want to zoom out just a little bit more. And in this case, we're going to ask a question. So my question is going to be, who was the first president of the United States? Be sure to use proper capitalization. So I have my dancing bacon here asking a question. So what do we need to do? We need to find a place to put and save our response. But this time it's a little bit different, because with our other example, I can't say if your name is right or wrong, it's your name. But with this one, I certainly can find out if your response is correct or not. So we're going to use a check text response block. And it says here, check if a response contains a specified text. This block allows you to search for multiple words by separating each word with a comma. For example, a search of cat, comma, dog will match both cat and dog. So what they're saying here is there's an answer for who is the president the first president of the United States, somebody may say Washington, somebody may say George, somebody may say George Washington. And depending on the audience, I may say any of those is fine. So that's what it's saying. So I'm just going to use this. I've told them to use capitals, so that's important. And I'm going to also add what text to check for. And I'm going to say George Washington. Is it case sensitive? I'm going to say yes, because I told them to use proper capitalization. So now, since we're asking if this text is correct to what I typed, George Washington, I need to tell them something if they get it right and tell them something if they get it wrong. So we're going to add 2 more scenes. So remember, we kind of set everything up and then we attach everything. So I'm going to add 2 more scenes. And they're just going to be character scenes. So I'm going to add 1. I'm going to add 1 more. And we're going to scoot over here a little bit. And again, I like to add my items kind of side by side here so I know I could just see them visually better. You can arrange them however you want. So I've got a right answer and a wrong answer. So in scene 7, this is going to be if they get it right. So if they get it right, I'm going to say, yes, you got it right. Great job. And instead of the dancing bacon, because I've already got him, I'm going to go ahead and look for something that says, how about correct? So I can say correct. I can get a big giant check mark. And then I also want to add 3 buttons here. Button 1, button 2, button 3. So again, once you start doing this, it's all relatively the same. You're just adding scenes and connecting them, maybe adding a little bit different blocks in between. So again, try not to get overwhelmed. It'll work out, I promise you. So on the first button, we're going to say that whoever's doing this understands what we've done so far and they want to move on to open-ended questions. Second button is going to say, I want to go back to the bacon menu. And the third button is going to say, I am so confused, I want to go back to the main menu. Okay, so that's if they get it right, they get a choice to keep going, go back to the bacon menu, back here, where they can pick another thing to learn, or they can just go all the way back to the main menu and start all over. So our next one is if they get it wrong. You know what, let's add a sound. We haven't added a sound over here. So let's go back here. You have to click in here to see the sound button. And let's add a sound. For this one, there's a famous Daffy Duck piece where he says, that is correct. Here is the Daffy Duck sound that I like. So let's hear it first. Love it, love it. So we're going to put that in there. So that'll play if they do it. So now guess what? We have to set up What if they get it wrong? So this is interactive immediate feedback, again, part of universal design. And in this case, we're going to say, we're going to be nice. So sorry, you are incorrect. Be sure you are using proper capitalization. And again, we're going to add some choices. Where do you go from here? I'm going to add 3 buttons. The first one is going to say, try again. The second one is going to say, get a clue or a hint. So get a clue as in, I'm going to help you with the answer. In this case, you could have a clue that shows a picture of George Washington, or maybe you have Curious George as a hint for the first name. So those are ways that you can give clues and guide them through the exercise. And then lastly is back to the bacon menu. Okay. And then we have one more thing to add before we connect them all together. And in this case, we are going to add one more scene. So remember, we got to connect 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now the 6th thing together. And in this case, we are going to just simply show them a picture of who it is. So in this case, here is a hint. The first president is shown in this picture. So that means it wasn't President Bacon, so I got to change this out. I'm going to look for a picture of George Washington. So I like this one. Picture of George Washington. And for this, since this is a clue, I'm going to kind of bring it down here to show that it goes with this one. And I need 2 buttons for that one, because what happens when they get to the end of there? So 2 buttons. So you can see how logical this is. A storyboard would be nice to just kind of make an outline of the buttons that you want. But I guarantee I always have to go back and add a scene or move things around, or I forgot to connect a button or add a button, because you don't want to just dead end somewhere. You always want to get to an end or exit area. So on these 2 buttons, I'm going to put try again. And the second one is going to be, you got it, go back to the bacon menu. Perfect. Now we have to connect everything. And this is the easy part, really, because what we're connecting is show me validate text. And again, I make sure I click the button of where I'm coming from, and I'm transitioning to, and this time I have to say to a scene. And I'm going to click the button and say, click here. Perfect, path is going on. So now I need to make sure that if I'm asking for something to be input, I have a storage space. So I go from here. So make sure you click in there. And in the text response, you have to click in the type of response in order to get the proper menu over here. So make sure you're clicking in there. And in this case, I'm going to transition not to a scene. I have to go to a block. And the only block I can go to is this one. Okay, we're wiping out those red markings. So now I just keep going along the path. I click on check text response. And it says transition where? Where do you want to go? And so the option is, if the response contains what I'm asking for, so that's what that means. So if it contains the words George Washington, so on response contains the thing I asked for, I'm going to transition to this one here, which is the you got it right. So I'm going to transition from here to here. And if they got it wrong, I'm going to transition. So I click here again. I'm going to transition from here to here. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, we're getting there. So now these buttons, actually, we already know where they go. So move on to open-ended questions. That's the only one we haven't created yet. Back to the bacon menu. So with this button, I need to go back. And I click the transition. I have to go back to the bacon menu, which is this one here. And on the go back to the main menu, so this one, click the button, click the pointer, or you can, if it's way too far away, you can go back to scene one. And it puts the line all the way back there. So that's the back to scene one. So I got those moved. For some reason, it's not showing the line back to the main menu, but it's there because this has been changed. So I'm going to move these a little bit so you can see a little bit better. So the only one is because we have to create this yet. So that's okay. Now we've got this so sorry menu, and this says go back to the bacon menu. So we're going to do that. I can click, and then I can use the little slider at the bottom to go back to the bacon menu, which is here, and point. Perfect. Yep, it got rid of the warning. Get a clue or hint. And we know that one goes right next here. So I got a clue. And then try again. Where do you think that goes? And that's going to go back to type a response, because we're going to ask them to try again. Try typing in who the first president was again. So we got those done. And we just got to connect this clue. So the try again, we just did. So we're going to try again, and we're going to put it back to this response screen. And what I tell students is don't look at the lines. They can get confusing. You don't need to look at them. You can go back to the bacon menu. So this is so they can not necessarily try again, but they can pick something else if they want to. And there you go. So we got all those done. Perfect. So we just got this one where we have to learn how to move on to an open-ended question. So we have to come back and connect that. So far, so good. We're at open-ended questions. So open-ended questions, we're going to, you guessed it, add a scene. And we're going to add a character scene. And let's zoom out a little bit so we can see a little bit more of what's going on. So we're going to add a character scene. We're going to change characters. George, I'm through with George here. In this case, let's go with woodland animals. So we're going to go with bear. There's all sorts of good ones. Oh, I like all of them. But let's go with this guy. Because you're coming from a clue or one of those areas where you've moved on. So I think that's really a nice way to kind of give them a clap. So this time we're going to say, now let's learn about open-ended questions. You must have a wall scene in order to see the answers. Students type. Are you ready to learn? Okay, so this is just for you, so you know how we're doing this. And I'm going to add 3 buttons. The first button is going to say, yes, I am ready to learn. The second button is going to say, teach me to validate text. And the third one is going to say, no, I'm not ready to learn. Stop my experience. So we're going to add a text input scene. So let's go ahead and add those. We've done this before. So we're going to add a text input scene. And we're going to ask a question that says, tell me what the hardest part of this project was for you. Type your response below. Okay, so we've got the text input scene. Now this time, since we want to post the answers and have everybody be able to see the answers, as opposed to our name where we just want the character to see our name, or the George Washington, which we just want to know if they got it right or not. If they got it right, we know they did because they moved on. In this case, we're looking for an open-ended question. So we're asking opinions. So we're actually going to post, it's kind of like a little discussion board to some extent. So in this case, we are going to add a different block. I'm going to scoot over again a little bit. And we're going to add a block. This time, we're going to add a wall block. And this is a save to wall block. So you use this block to save input to a data wall. That's what we want to do. So there's our save to wall block. And then we're going to add a wall scene. So this is new. I'm going to add a wall scene. And here's a wall scene. And again, it keeps going to the right. So here's our wall scene. And what you'll notice is it says no wall selected. And that's fine. We just need to create the name of our wall. So if I've already got a wall out there and I want to keep posting to it, I can select a wall. Like I have a lot of different walls out there that I've created. So maybe I want to combine a couple classes and put it all on one wall. I can do that. But in this case, I'm going to create a new wall. And I just have to give it a name. So this is EDU 120, hardest part of the project wall. And I can give a description. I want students to tell me which part of this project was the hardest for them. And down here at the bottom, I create a wall. And what it'll do, you'll see loading preview, and it just simply says the name of my wall. So perfect. So now, this is a very important piece of building a wall. You have to go back to the wall, the little block, and tell it which wall you want it to save to. So we didn't have a wall created. That's why we couldn't do it right away. So it says select a wall. Well, now I have one. And it's called, and it usually is at the very bottom. So EDU 120, hardest part. So that's the wall I want to save things to. And there's an option to make things anonymous. You take a chance when it's anonymous if it's a question that might be you, or you think your audience might post something that's inappropriate. So you want to make sure that it's not anonymous, in my opinion, for these classes. So that is perfect. So again, I want to make sure that you understand in the save to wall block and the wall scene, you have to make sure you select the same wall, the one that you created. Okay, so that's very important or it won't work right. So now we just have to connect things. Okay, so are you ready? Yes, I am. So this is perfect. Don't forget to go back to this one we left behind here. So you're ready to move on to open-ended questions. I click the button. I click the scene mover. Okay, this is all done. We are all connected all the way up to here. So now the first option is, yes, I'm ready to move on. So I'm going to click and point. Perfect, perfect. Teach me to validate text. That's going to take us back to where we were. And again, you don't have to have all these buttons. I'm just giving them lots of choices. Go back here, which is basically the bacon menu. And then, no, I'm not, end my experience. So this is new too. I don't generally put these in, but I wanted to show you what the option is. So sometimes maybe they're interrupted or they just don't have time to finish. You can say, no, stop my experience. And in this case, instead of connecting it to something, we're going to say, instead of transition to a scene, we're going to say end experience. And what you'll see is this little blue check mark, which means the experience stops here. They won't see anything past this. So again, I want to show you how to do it. It's not really necessary to put it in, trying to get everybody to the same end, but it's just an idea to show you. And you want to make sure you don't say do nothing, because it literally just sits there. It doesn't end it. It doesn't do anything. So I'm not sure why that button's even there. Okay, so we got these all taken care of. Now we have to connect our text response, and remember to click in the type of response area here in order to get the menu you want. And in that case, we're going to transition to this block. And the block we want to transition to is right here. Let's move over and click on the block. And we want to transition to a scene, which is our wall scene right here. Again, for some reason, it's not showing some of my lines, but they're there. I can see that they're there. And I can move my wall down here. So it's odd. I'm not sure why my display is not showing it. Okay, now we're getting to one of the last couple things that I want to show you. And this is the camera scene and a selfie wall. So this is fun. We're going to make a selfie wall. So in order to do that, we're going to add a new scene. And in this case, we're just going to do a character scene. I'm going to move him over. So you can keep moving over as you need to. So we're going to add a character scene. And with this one, we're going to say, now let's take a look at a photo or video wall. Because they can post photos, they can post videos, they can post text to these walls. It's really nice. A couple buttons here. So button 1 is simply, okay, let's go on. Button 2, I've decided I didn't want button 2. So I want to show you how you get rid of that button. So I said, oops, I really don't want 2 buttons. I only want 1 button. So to remove it, I right click on the button, and you can see I can move them around. I can move the buttons up and down, or I can delete. I'm going to delete a button because I only want to give them an answer that moves them along. They don't really have a choice at this point, and it's just kind of strategic to get them to interact. You ready? Yay, I'm ready. Okay, so I've got that one. Put him up here. Another character scene. Well, let's change characters. How about a camera? Let's see if we come up with camera. There's some funny ones. I kind of like this guy. So let's add another scene. Just another character scene. And my tourist is going to say, let's take a selfie. And we're going to add a button that simply says, okay, take a selfie. So we got to add another scene. So we're just interacting with our group right now. We're just giving them some extra interactions and clicks. So in this case, we're going to do a camera scene. So in a camera scene, I have a button down here that says create a frame. So creating a frame means I can pull in any characters I want. So when I do the selfie, it looks like I'm standing next to somebody or something like that. So I can do that by creating a frame here, or I can use any of the ones that I've created here. I'm going to create a frame. And now I can simply, I love the bacon guy. So I'm going to click on him and have him dancing in the background. So I'm going to make him maybe over here. I can make him a little smaller so he can be behind you. I can do another guy over here. Got to leave room for the selfie. But so I can make it look like there's a crowd of bacon guys. However you want to do it, that's fine. I just save it. So here's my selfie, which is very cool. You can do a hat and then it looks like they put the hat on. That's always fun too. As far as the camera scene itself, so here's the settings. I can use a front-facing camera, a rear-facing camera. I can have photo or video. I can do photo only, video only. We're going to do photo only. And I have the frame that I created is already in here because I created it. So that's all I need for that right away. So remember, anytime we ask for something or create something, we need a place to put it. So whether it's text or a poll or video, we need a place to put it. So I have to add. And we need to add a save to wall block. There's only one, so that's one we're going to use. And then we have a place to store it, but now we need a place to see it. And to do that, we create a wall. So we're going to need another wall scene. It's just like what we did with the other wall scene when we asked for responses to our open-ended question. This is just going to post videos. So same thing happens. We have to create a wall because we don't have one, or we could use one that we've already set up. If I wanted to use the open-ended question wall, I could. Doesn't make any sense to because this is a different thing. So I'm going to create a wall. And I'm going to call it EDU 120 selfie wall. And this is a wall to post selfies from EDU 120. I know, it's the same thing. And I'm going to create my wall. So remember, the big thing with saving to walls is that you have to have the same wall selected in the block and the wall scene. So let's go back to the block. And that's what that little red button up here means, is that you have picked a wall. So we're going to select the wall. And remember, when I create one, it's always way at the bottom. And I don't want it anonymous just yet. So, okay. So we have to pick that wall, make sure that they're together. Now that we have our media wall, we need to make sure that we create the wall or select one that's already there. And I've created one, the EDU 120 selfie wall. Need to make sure that I put the same one over here in the block. And so I've selected one already. Wonderful. So now we have these two selfie walls. Great. Now we have them connected, both the block and the scene select the same wall. Okay. Now all we have to do is what? We have to connect everything. So let's go back to where our last connection is. And we don't have anything here after they have selected their media wall. So we need to make sure that we connect the last thing that they did to our new choice. And these are going to be very easy to connect. So I need to make sure I click on the button, connect it here, click on the button, connect it to our selfie. Let's continue over. Take our selfie, connect it to our block. Take our block, connect it to our selfie wall. All right, we are almost done. The last thing we're going to do is create a character scene for a final scene. So this is ending the experience. So we're going to add new character scene. Love it. And move him over a little bit. I can move my wall down. And with this one, we're going to end it the way I love to end my stuff, which is dancing hot dogs. It's my favorite. I'm going to use the dancing hot dogs. And I'm also going to say, great job. You did it. You completed the whole experience. It's time to dance. I can add a button that says, great job. I can add a button that takes them back to the beginning. In this case, I think I'm just going to leave off the button. And we will end the experience there, but we need to make some connections yet. And I want to add one more thing. And the one more thing is music. And I want to look for peanut butter jelly time. So peanut butter jelly time, I had to click back up here instead of sounds and music. I just wanted to search all of Metaverse because it could be under several different categories. So let's see what we have here. So that's one that somebody has recorded and uploaded themselves. Not what I want. That's the one I want. So that's why it's important to hear it first. So wonderful. I love it. I love it. So I just have to take my selfie wall and attach it. And with this scene, all I need to do then, the transition would be to end the experience. So that's the end. You know it's the end because I have the blue check mark. And you have done it. Amazing. This was a long video, I know, but that way you can go back and look at just the pieces that you want to add. I will also make sure that I put the time in each area so you can move the video along to ensure that you get to the section that you really want. So once you've ended the experience, let's take a quick look at everything we've done. Oh my, we've done a lot. Look at this. Look at this. Perfect. Also, you'll notice there's no red spots. So we know everything is connected and works. So I'm going to go ahead and publish. And I already have my information in here. And so here's what I have. If you have your phone handy, you can scan this and see if it works. And then also the link that you're going to share, you're going to share both links. So you're going to share the link to your experience and the link to the studio. And that's so I can go in and look and help you in case something doesn't work. Great job getting through this video. I know this is going to be a challenge for you, and that's the point. We want you to do what you can on this. It doesn't have to work for you to get a good grade on it. Sometimes there are just weird little things in there that don't work. Get a hold of me and I will help you to make sure that yours works. What I want to see is that you've done the storyboarding, that you have thought this through from a UDL perspective using your lesson plan. And getting it to work sometimes takes a little longer than what we'll do in this assignment. So that's why I'm not worried about it getting to work. You don't need to be able to actually see it on an iOS or Apple product, but it is helpful so you can see maybe where some of the glitches are. And you'll have glitches. I have glitches. It happens. So don't worry about that. I want you to try your very best. And when you do get it to work, you're going to be amazed at what you could do. Good luck, have fun, and I cannot wait to see what you come up with.